Why the brain loves patterns. Have you ever noticed how you can spot a familiar face in a crowd almost instantly? Or how a song you haven't heard in years can bring back a flood of memories with just a few notes? Or maybe you've realized that your mind tends to predict what comes next. Finishing someone's sentence, expecting a certain outcome, or recognizing the rhythm in a piece of music before it even plays out. That's not coincidence. That's your brain's love for patterns in action. From the way we read emotions, understand language, or even fall in love, our entire experience of life is shaped by one powerful force: the brain's constant search for patterns. And once you understand why, you begin to see just how beautifully, and sometimes dangerously, your mind works beneath the surface. So let's talk about it. Why does the human brain love patterns so much? Why does it feel so satisfying when things make sense, and so unsettling when they don't? Our brains are, in essence, pattern-making machines. From the moment we're born, the mind is wired to find order in chaos. It's how we survive. When a baby hears a familiar voice, sees a repeated face, or recognizes a routine, that baby feels safe. Those patterns tell the brain, this is known, this is predictable, you're okay. As adults, we don't outgrow that. We still seek patterns. In relationships, in daily habits, in social cues, and even in randomness. We interpret the world by detecting regularities and connections. When we see two events happen close together, our brain assumes they're linked. When we find structure in music, art, or nature, our brain rewards us with a feeling of pleasure and satisfaction. It's as if the mind is constantly saying, if I can predict it, I can control it. Let's go a bit deeper into the psychology of this. The brain is always processing an enormous amount of information: sounds, sights, smells, emotions, and memories, all at once. To manage this flood of data, the brain uses patterns as shortcuts. Instead of analyzing every detail from scratch, it relies on familiar templates built from experience. These mental templates are called schemas, frameworks that help us interpret new information based on what we already know. For example, when you walk into a restaurant, you don't need instructions. Your brain already knows the pattern. Sit down, look at the menu, order, eat, pay, leave. That's your restaurant schema. Without these cognitive shortcuts, everyday life would be exhausting. This pattern recognition helps us move through the world efficiently. It allows us to anticipate outcomes, make quick judgments, and navigate social situations with ease. But it's not just about logic, it's deeply emotional too. Patterns give us comfort. Think about why people find routines soothing, or why rituals, even small ones like drinking coffee from your favorite mug, feel grounding. These patterns give a sense of stability in a world that's constantly changing. When things are uncertain or unpredictable, the brain becomes stressed. The amygdala, the part of the brain involved in fear and anxiety, activates, signaling danger. But when familiar patterns are recognized, the brain's reward system, particularly involving dopamine, gives us a little hit of pleasure and relief. That's why you might rewatch your favorite movie again and again, or replay the same playlist that makes you feel safe. Those predictable sequences create a mental rhythm that soothes the nervous system. So, in a way, our love for patterns is our brain's way of feeling safe in an unpredictable world. But here's the fascinating part. This same love for patterns can also mislead us. The brain doesn't just recognize real patterns, it sometimes invents them. Psychologists call this apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections in random or unrelated things. You've probably experienced it. Seeing shapes in clouds, thinking of a friend right before they call, or believing certain numbers or coincidences hold secret meanings. The brain would rather find a false pattern than accept pure randomness, because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. That's also why conspiracy theories, superstitions, and certain biases can be so powerful. The human mind craves order. It wants things to make sense, even if it has to create meaning where none exists. So while our pattern recognition helps us survive and thrive, it can also lead us astray. Let's take relationships as an example. When you meet someone new, your brain immediately starts looking for patterns in their behavior, tone, body language, and consistency. If they act warmly and respectfully over time, Your mind builds a safe pattern, and you begin to trust them. But if their behavior is unpredictable, loving one day and distant the next, your brain struggles. It doesn't know what to expect. That unpredictability can trigger anxiety, confusion, and even obsession, because the brain keeps trying to solve the pattern that isn't there. It's one of the reasons inconsistent relationships can be emotionally draining. They hijack the brain's pattern system, leaving you stuck between comfort and confusion. Understanding this can be deeply empowering. It reminds you that sometimes it's not your heart that's confused. It's your brain trying to make sense of inconsistency. The same happens with habits. Whether it's reaching for your phone first thing in the morning or eating a snack when you're stressed, these actions form behavioral patterns in the brain. The more they repeat, the more deeply wired they become. Neurons that fire together, wire together. This is one of the brain's most powerful principles, called Hebbian learning. It's how habits form, both good and bad. Your brain loves repetition because repetition means predictability, and predictability means safety. That's why change, even positive change, can feel so uncomfortable at first. Breaking an old habit means breaking a familiar pattern. It feels like uncertainty, and your brain resists that. But here's the hopeful part. Because the brain is so good at creating patterns, it's also incredibly good at forming new ones. That's neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on new experiences. Every time you choose a new behavior, think a new thought, or respond differently, you're training your brain to recognize a healthier pattern. Over time, those new neural pathways become the new normal, and what once felt uncomfortable starts to feel natural. Let's reflect on this in daily life. When you feel drawn to familiar people or situations, even when they're not good for you, it's often your brain craving the comfort of a known pattern. Recognizing that gives you power, because awareness breaks the automatic loop. When you find yourself repeating certain mistakes, it's not always a sign of failure. Sometimes it's a sign that an old pattern still feels safer than the unknown. And when you struggle to build new habits, remember, your brain isn't broken. It's just doing what it's designed to do, protecting you through familiarity. So instead of fighting your brain, work with it. Introduce new patterns slowly, consistently, and compassionately. Over time, your mind will adapt. There's a certain beauty in all of this, knowing that your brain is constantly searching for harmony in chaos. Whether in music, nature, or human connection, we are wired to find rhythm, balance, and meaning. It's what makes us storytellers. It's what allows us to love, to create, to grow. And yes, sometimes it's what causes us to repeat what we should have left behind. But understanding this truth helps us move forward more consciously. We can choose which patterns to keep and which to rewrite. So the next time you notice yourself drawn to something familiar or frustrated by your own repeated behavior, take a breath and remember, your brain is just trying to make sense of the world. Be patient with it, teach it new rhythms, and trust that, with time and awareness, you can create patterns that serve you peace, your growth, and your happiness. If this conversation helped you understand yourself a little better, I'd love for you to take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might find comfort or clarity in it, and subscribe to the channel so we can keep exploring the mind together. Because the more we understand how our brains work, the more power we have to shape the lives we want. And remember, life is full of patterns. Some we inherit, some we create, and some we outgrow. But through awareness, we can always choose to build new ones that bring light, calm, and meaning to our everyday lives. Stay curious, stay kind to your mind, and I'll see you in the next one.